Welcome back. It's Maybe You Can Relate with Katie Smith. I'm glad to have you here with me today. This is a space where women get real about real life, where resiliency rules, where we're rooted in faith, and where we radiate because of gratitude and grace. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently, and I'm really excited. I hope you have your lemonade, that's what I've got today, or your lemon drop, and settle in for a shorter version of our episode today. But we're going to talk a little bit from an unscripted place, if you will, to where I'm going to answer some questions that came in from some of our community members. And I thought it would be kind of a Dear Abby type format where until I start doing lives, I could take some questions in the comments section and then kind of answer them periodically. So if you like the idea of this and value my opinion or life experience, or just want my hot take on something, just let me know and put your questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them with a lot of care. All right. So question number 1, this comes from a friend group of women who are in their early to mid 20s. And so this is fun for me because I kind of get to reflect on 25 years of life since I was their age and what I've accumulated as far as knowledge and experience. And I'm so honored that they would think my opinion is valuable to them as they continue to navigate, because as a almost 50-year-old woman thinking about life and the things I consider at this age, to the women, the courageous and brave young women who've submitted these very vulnerable questions to me at their time of life, I just want to honor that it's as real to them, these young professional women going through their stage of life, as real as it is for any of us having a hot flash at 3 a.m. or dealing with an angry boss or trying to do the math, working out when retirement is going to be possible and things like that. And so I would just shift here a little bit. So I would just encourage you to remember that as we listen. And maybe there are aspects that we still can connect to. I'm excited to think about that as well. So again, let me have a drink. First question is, what about living with a boyfriend before a ring? Are there any true benefits for the woman? Okay. Probably some of my community members are not in relationship that are heterosexual relationships, so I want to keep that in mind. So I'm going to reference this question in the heterosexual context because that's the way it came to me. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that regardless of the makeup of your relationship, that what about living with a significant other before there's a lifetime commitment, or at least the promise of a lifetime commitment? My foot's falling asleep. Oh, okay. All right. So I will say that in my experience, I did live with, I've had 3 fiancés. I have lived with all of them before either being engaged or married. To my first, I was engaged for a time, short time before we broke up. And then my first husband, we lived together for a year before we were married. And with my now husband, that was a very non-traditional situation because I was widowed and I don't even know if I was even worried or concerned with how the traditional setup was supposed to go at that point. So that's kind of my background a little bit. But I found when I was a young woman and was living with my significant other, my boyfriend, who became my husband at the time, that for where I was in my mind, it was a lot of playing house. And in the Gen X generation, and maybe it's not different for millennials or Gen Z or Gen Y. I was so under the impression that if you were successful as a woman, or you were going to be in a successful life or something that looked like what it was supposed to be in your early and mid 20s, that you should be, locking in a partner, considering having a baby before your eggs got old. In my lifetime, that's gone from like 30 to 40s, and now even into 50s for some folks. But so that range is kind of extended, but I was definitely thinking about all of that, and it was on the clock. So when I was with Dennis, it was a lot of playing house, and that was fun. I'm not really sure that was tending to the relationship, and in a way that I would have been thinking about, are we compatible? Do we have like values? Really the stuff that makes a relationship have longevity, because a ring is a symbol. And so we've got to think about what it's a symbol for. And it's a symbol for the relationship that has a strong enough foundation and enough commonalities and shared values that the people in the relationship feel like they can build a lifetime upon. And lifetime's a long time. So my mom used to say, the days go by fast, but they also go by slow if you're in a situation where you don't want to be. I think that there needs to be some inventory. I think it's okay if that's what you choose and that's what your value system allows. I don't have any judgment on whether or not you want to live with a partner. I just think you better know why you're doing it. If it's to save money, that's probably not a good enough reason. If it's because there are other solutions to split rent, or, there are ways to minimize your budget so that you can make sure to afford things. I know it's hard in this day and time. I give you that. And it's harder for young people than it's ever been. So there's that. But are you looking to play house for like validation of self and self-worth? That's where I was at. And my self-esteem was such, I happened to have a really nice man that was my boyfriend and ultimately my husband. He was lovely and I loved him desperately. I'll tell you, I'm not sure that we were a great match. I think ultimately we were supposed to learn some things from each other and probably take those lessons and keep going. But the Lord had a different plan. And I'm glad, because I got my oldest son out of the deal and a lot of really great life lessons and an appreciation for a lot of different things and experience, and a piece of my identity that's really important, that was a tragedy, but I wouldn't have unless I had been with him. So nothing is an error. It's all on the path. And there were some intuition things happening inside of me that was telling me maybe to slow down or think this through, take your time, nothing has to be in a rush. But I was busy considering my self-esteem, and it was just so low. It was just so low. I was just so hungry for attention from men, and didn't know what that looked like in a healthy way. So it's kind of like frankly, I'm sorry to say it, for me, it was like a dog begging for scraps. Like I was just so starving for some of that kind of attention, that any of that attention I was going to latch onto in a pretty significant way, and then be afraid that it was going somewhere. So whether I was having inklings in my belly about whether or not it was the right fit or match for me, I was pushing them down. I was making them be quiet because I wasn't good enough or a good enough woman if a man didn't want me. And at that time, because of where you are in your life, I'd gotten my degree, I'd started my career, and that was next. Marriage, babies, house. I guess marriage, house, babies. I don't know that all of that was revealed just because we lived together. I think once we were married, things definitely changed because, you're not married until you're married, and there's a reality of marriage that happens only once you're married. So I don't think you can make the argument that you have some sort of an idea about what it feels like to be married. I think you have an idea about what it feels like to be a roommate with that person and someone you're intimate with, and if they're clean or dirty, or if they run on time or late, or if they leave toothpaste in the sink, if they leave their shoes at the front door or something, whatever the things are. Leave dishes in the sink overnight, and that's not something you did in your house. I think you get to learn all of those things, and that's valuable. I just don't know that it's about the stuff, because if you waited to move in until you were married to that person, you would know that then anyway. So it's just a postponing of the knowing. I think the caveat is it stuff that we can live with? I believe that a person will show up and tell you who they are for the most part, unless they are complete frauds. And we've all watched enough Lifetime movies and ID channel shows to know some people are complete frauds. And so with that exception, I just believe that you're going to figure all of that out anyway. And so whether or not they leave dishes in the sink overnight is a much less valuable thing to base a relationship off of. You would know if the person, if let's say cleanliness and orderliness is your value, and you want to make sure that that's a shared value. You don't have to live with a person to know that. All you have to do is visit where they live, or ride in their car, or see how fast they need to pull up a file, right? So those things don't necessarily come because you live with one another. So what's the advantage to the woman? I'm not sure that there's an advantage. I think it's just maybe a preference. And if the goal is to play house, that's not a good enough reason to me. And I would say there's a lot of internal dialogue and check-in and work that would need to happen if you can't answer some pretty big questions about value systems and compatibility around, obviously finances and spiritual and religious beliefs and children. Frankly, let's go there, political viewpoints, right? So that's my answer. I think the stuff that's the real stuff that makes a marriage has nothing to do with living with each other, really. Because if a person is, let's say someone is cheating or sneaky or underhanded or manipulative, you don't have to live with them to know all that. You will know all that. It'll just take a matter of time. I think that's my answer. It's really about knowing yourself, knowing if you're ready. I guess the one thing that we haven't broached is kind of the physical intimacy or sexual encounters, that kind of aspect in a grown-up relationship. I also don't think that you need to live with somebody to know if you're compatible that way either. If you are a person who chooses to have sex before marriage, you're going to know whether you're compatible in that area as well without living together. So I hope that gives some insight. Please put in the comments if it did give some insight. What kind of ideas and thoughts did it spur on for you? And maybe some of you that have been 20-something can shed some light in the comments section for these wonderful community members who asked this question. Until next time, maybe you can relate. If you can, please like, share, hype the video so that it keeps showing up in your algorithm. We're so excited you're here. I can't wait to see you. Until next time.